One of the things that this podcast has taught me is that liposuction is dangerous.
Liposuction is not dangerous to fit into the clothes you want to wear, but it's deeply problematic for metabolic health. And that's because, as a reminder, it's not the mass of fat we have that matters most when it comes to metabolic health, it's the size of our fat cells. The best way to help reduce that fat is to shrink your fat cells. So that's very important for people to realize. When you lose weight, you're not killing fat cells. You're not getting rid of them. You're shrinking them. And small fat cells are very healthy fat cells. They are literally anti-inflammatory. They're releasing hormones that fight inflammation in the body, and they're very insulin sensitive, which helps the body by extension be very insulin sensitive. So very healthy. Small fat cells are healthy fat cells. The problem with liposuction is that you are going in and rather than shrinking the fat cells, you are sucking them out. Now, let's say like a study that was done in the US in women, they found that when women had liposuction from their buttocks and hips area, which is where most women gain their weight, which is because of sex hormones telling her body to store that weight there, they may look at that fat on their buttocks and hips and say, there's more than I want. I'm going to suck it out. So they do, but they don't change their habits. So they're still eating the same way they were before. Essentially, now they have fewer fat cells, but the body wants to store that same amount of fat based on how they're eating. In other words, there's enough insulin telling the body to store a certain amount of fat, and there's enough calories to fuel that fat storage. But the fat would be saying, hey, we don't have all these fat cells in the buttocks and hips like we used to. Let's go somewhere else. And so it's no surprise that over the ensuing years after she's had liposuction, not only does she not experience any improvement in any health marker, nothing gets better with regards to her health. And that is, again, reflective of the fact that it's the size of the fat cell that matters. Maybe she has lost 10 kilos of fat. That might be a little much for liposuction, 6 kilos. And you would say, well, you have 6 kilos of less fat. Clearly, you're healthier. And yet they're not at all. Nothing has gotten better. And then if you follow them over the years, they cannot gain that fat back on their buttocks and hips because it was literally sucked out, and adults have a hard time making new fat cells. So it's no surprise that they start storing more fat in an area that wasn't sucked out, namely their belly.